My name is my name is GP Rao. Welcome all to this special event being organized by our Young Leader Series coordinator. So we have already done 3 such programs, and this time the program's topic is also English. So they would talk about something new, normal. They'll talk about this hybrid. So this is the topic with wonderful panelists, which they will be getting introduced very soon. In brief, I wanted to tell all of you that this is an young leadership series. All the speakers we're choosing are the young, bright professionals from the academia and the corporate world, and because they are the future, and that's the idea of getting them here. So I want to introduce our series director, that is Yashwant Chauhan. He is a TIS product. He's working as a DGM with GAIL, and he's also on our executive body of ISTD Delhi. So Yashwant, congratulations to you. A good job being done. So please keep up the good work. So with that, I would request Chairman of Delhi chapter, Shri Mukesh Jain, to formally welcome and also share his address. Mr. Mukesh Jain.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Good evening, friends. I, on behalf of Management Committee of ISTD Delhi chapter, welcome you all to this panel discussion under Young Leaders Series on a very important topic. Hybrid is the new normal in learning and development, by 3 very young leaders, Ms. Ramya Rao, Mr. Girish Kohli, and Mr. Sashi Kumar. I welcome them to the program. I welcome Shri Prem Singh, President NHRD Delhi NCR chapter, Shri Dinesh Jain, Chairman NIPM Delhi NCR chapter, Dr. Yogesh Mishra, President DMA, and Shri Abhay Kapoor, President FMA, and Dr. VM Bansal, Chairman NDIM, to the program, and convey our sincere thanks to all of them for joining us. I also welcome Dr. GP Rao and Yashwant Chauhan. Friends, Indian Society for Training and Development, ISTD, has celebrated its Golden Jubilee year recently. ISTD maintained a large chapter network of more than 46 chapters and 9,000 institutional and individual members. So, society is affiliated to IFTDO, USA, and RTDO, Manila. The society published a quarterly journal of Training and Development. ISTD conducts a diploma in training and development, a correspondence course through distance learning of 18 months duration for the purpose of recruitment for superior positions under the central government and PSUs. Friends, ISTD organizes training programs, regional and national conference, train the trainer certification program both at chapter and national level. Friends, you can enroll yourself paying less than 10,000 rupees for life membership. For more details, please log into istd.in or istddaily.in. I once again welcome our panelists, our President Emeritus, past National President, Chapter Chairperson, NC members, senior members and friends from ISTD, NIPM, NHRD, ISTD Diploma, DMA, FMA, faculty members and students from various institutes. I wish you all a wonderful evening and joyful weekend. Namaskar. Over to Dr. GP Rao.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Friends, you must have noticed that it's not only a young leadership series with our young leadership series director being young, the panelist being one other important thing just now articulated by Mr. Jain is there is a synergy amongst 5 leading professional bodies of Delhi NCR, namely ISTD, NIPM, NHRDN, DMA, FMA, and a leading business school, NDIM. Together, they have brought here to present you on a relevant contemporary topic. So I would now invite Yashwant to set the contest, introduce the topic, and also introduce the panelists. Yashwant.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. G.P. Rao sir and Mukesh and Saab for the warm welcome of the entire gathering. I once again welcome everyone who has joined the session, including the industry leaders, people from the fraternity, students at large, and I thank each one of you to be a part of this session. We thought about this topic, which is hybrid is the new normal in learning and development. So we very carefully thought about it because, as we all understand, COVID-19 has actually fundamentally changed our world for forever. It is 100% certain that we are not going to go to the normal which we were used to prior to the COVID-19, and the next future is absolutely going to be fundamentally changed because the way we are going to work. So we are talking about the workman, and the workplace. So all three of these are going through a seismic shift. And as we understand, hybrid is going to the future, which devotes a lot of challenges for all the leaders going forward. And this panel is basically trying to address that. What are the challenges on front of the work from anywhere scenario, and also from the hybrid setup as such. We have with us, a great panel of young leaders. It is my immense pleasure and pride to introduce our moderator for the session. Hello, can you please go to the moderator? Hello, can you please go to the moderator slide? Yeah, so we have Ms. Ramya from Reliance Industries Limited, who is going to be the moderator for the session. Ramya, very warm welcome to the session. It is indeed a great privilege to have you as a part of this ISTD Young Leaders Series. Ramya is basically a lead learning and development at Reliance Industries Limited. She's the BTech in Electronics Communications from JNU Kakinada. She has close to 14 years of learning and development experience in Reliance Industries Limited and Esteemed Technologies. She has been the anchor and producer of TV9 Network for about 1+ year. And the best part about her is that she's an expert in storytelling. And we all know, how powerful storytelling is really. She's driven by her, power and compassion to fast track the growth of new hires at Reliance Industries. She's a certified assessment expert from AON and also having the certification in leadership communication for maximum impact from Northwestern University. And as she quotes, she believes that there's a story in every learning and a learning in every story. And stories are threads that connect us in the loom of life. So welcome, Ramya, to this session. We look forward to your insight on the topic. Thank you so much. Let's move to the next one. Alok, our first panel speaker. Yes, so we have Girish Kohli from the Bennett Coleman group. He is currently the head performance and rewards from this company. He has done his BE in computers from Army Technology, Pune. He has done his management in marketing and HR from Nashik Institute of Management Studies from Bombay. He has about 15 years of HR experience in companies like Mercer, DSM, Sinochem Pharmaceuticals, PropTiger.com, Bennett and Coleman Group as such. Basically a wanderer and a journeyman. He seeks to learn and to claw back the learning for a better world. He's the experience of having experience in the human capital domain and the skill and talent consulting domain. He is having experience among the vast, diverse companies which are primarily the MNC, Indian promoter base. He's also having experience of startup. So thank you, Girish. We look forward to a lot of insights and experiences which are unique to your background going forward. And he believes in the fact that business of talent is to drive the convergence between individual and organization growth aspirations. So thank you, Girish, for being a part of this session. I want to welcome you. Hello, can we move to the next panel speaker? Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, the third speaker who we have is S. Shashi Kumar from another great organization called Indian Oil Corporation Limited. He is currently the DGM Learning Development at Indian Oil's Institute of Petroleum Management in Gurgaon. He's having the 13-year experience in the engineering domain, Reliance Industries Limited and Tamil Nadu Petrochemicals Limited. And he's also having 8+ years of experience in L&D domain and also into sales and marketing in Indian Oil Corporation Limited. So very interesting mix of experience which he's having. He's a gold medalist in National Management Program from MDI Gurgaon in the space of HRM and personal administration. He is also a national topper as far as ISTD diploma training program is concerned. He's somebody who is having a very unique blend of experience, as I already talked about. He's quite proficient in design and development of extremely important L&D interventions in the human potential development. So we welcome you, Shashi, for being part of the session. It is amazing to see you, all these young leaders, making different strides in their walks of life and making great institutions for everyone. Thank you so much. And I now, hand it over to Ramya Rao for taking the session forward, being the moderator and also the speaker of the session. Over to you, Ramya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yashwant. First of all, thank you so much, everybody, for this beautiful opportunity. I think considering that learning is a way of life, to have a topic on hybrid learning and how it's sort of becoming a new normal and where are we heading towards. This is a great and a pertinent topic to talk about today. And I think for all of you who have joined us today, be it even students or, the delegates from different companies as such, we have a lot to discuss and to see how we are faring right now and where we are going towards in the future as well. So I think it's absolutely interesting and pertinent, two important words that I could think of when it comes to this topic. So with me, I do have my fellow panelists, and as you've seen the introduction, I think together we all bring a plethora of experience from different industries, as well as the kind of delegates who have joined us today, the kind of experience you all bring in. It will be great to, interact and get to know more about what is this hybrid learning all about, and, how are we adapting ourselves, not just ourselves as an organization, but also our learners. How are our learners also adapting to this, and how are we making it sure that they can adapt faster and better to this? So we're going to do a lot of discussions, and the way we're going to divide this is we're going to talk about hybrid learning a little. We'll talk about the engagement around it, but more importantly, I think it's important to note that from learning point of view, always, especially today, we look at the efficacy or the efficiency of the kind of learning offerings that we do and the way we do it. So the last part of this discussion will definitely talk about the efficiency and the efficacy as well. And I think after which we're going to have some round of question answer, and then we're going to keep the floor open to all of you so that we can have some questions from your side as well. So clearly, the technology boom in the last half century, if you look at it, it has given avenues for digital solutions, especially in the phase of learning. I want all of us to rewind back to 15, 20 years back, going back to a classroom. Whenever our managers would tell us that, okay, there's a training program, what's the first thing you and I can think of is go to the classroom, go to a beautiful setup, sit and learn face to face. Little did we realize that something called COVID-19 or pandemic will come in and ensure that all of us, every organization switches to a new way of learning. And this is where I'm going to actually bring in our fellow panelists, both Sashi as well as Girish, and I'm going to ask them one simple question starting with, right? While COVID-19 has ensured that all organizations adapt in an agile way, how many of us, or how many do you think around the world were truly prepared for this new ways of learning for their own learners? Any thoughts on this, Girish and Sashi? Starting with you, Sashi.
Yeah, thank you, Ramya, and thank you, Yashwant. I mean, indeed, it's a great pleasure to be in this elite panel and to discuss with the most important and the coveted topic on hybrid learning. It's really, really interesting. I mean, when we talk about Ramya, when you put up the question, like, how well the industry is prepared and as well as the learners are prepared. So when we just look around on the genesis or the reason why it has actually become so very important at this point of time in the context is when in 2020, when March, when the COVID has really hit the entire world. I mean, we never expected, this is going to be the kind of a big challenge for each and every one of us. I mean, initially it was like we were preparing for a sprint. I mean, a quick sprint, like say we were trying to redesign our training programs and trying to just say, okay, it's a matter of a month or so. So we'll be trying to really save ourselves and try to continue our regular practices of in-classroom training program. And a couple of training programs we did. Indeed, there were so many webinars were conducted during that point of time. Okay, that is going to be a really stopgap arrangement. But after a few months, then we realized that it's not a sprint and we are preparing for a 1500 meter race. And we started to redesign our training calendar involving many programs having a mix of both the online and the in-classroom training program. But hardly the success were realized because the pandemic was such impactful. It was mostly the learning experience was online in practice. But now we realize it is not even a 1500 meter race, it is going to be a marathon. But I mean, there is a saying that we should never waste a crisis. So during this crisis, so it is very important, how do we really transform this learning experience? I mean, there's a whole lot of things which can be done with this hybrid learning and the digital mode of learning into picture. So now keeping that as in context, we are geared up to design the programs and also to get on board the knowledge partners and the faculty fraternity to design the content curation and also to administer in the most effective way. Now, what matters is the experience, the learning experience. So now we are slowly graduating towards that. We are trying to make the learning experience more exciting, engaging, and empowering. And it's really an opportunity for all of us to make use of it.
Truly, very well said, Sashi. It is actually an opportunity, not just for organizations, for the learners, and I think everyone involved in learning as such. Girish, what are your thoughts here?
Right. So, Ramya, companies were already in the process of moving towards the hybrid learning, partly because digital transformation was already the mandate for the decade. What COVID did was accentuate the speed at which it happened. No one was really ready for it, but everyone responded to it, right? And that speed of response, the resilience, the agility that all organizations across nations that they showed is why and how we are here today having this discussion. I was going through a LinkedIn workplace learning report, and it talks about two interesting trends, and these are both correlated and two sides of the same coin. One is from the organization side. L&D teams or experts or leaders are looking at upskilling and reskilling as their number one priority. That's 59% of the people looking at that. And they're also looking at internal mobility as a top priority. And they're both linked because you upskill and reskill people and they become more mobile internally, right? Now, from the learner side, what has happened? Gen Z learners spent 50% more learner hours on learning content in 2020 than 2019. In 1 year, we saw this jump. 76% of Gen Z learners believe that learning is a key to their successful career. Right. So while the organization is focusing that learning is important, upskilling is important, even the recipient is ready. It is a ripe time for the learning change or transformation to take over the entire world right now.
Absolutely, very well said, Girish. That's actually true there. In fact, I think if you look back as well, a traditional way of learning, right, and versus the way we're all learning right now. And I think, as you mentioned rightly, this has always been there. In fact, since the 90s and all, we have always seen that there's been a sort of blended learning. And now the focus is moving towards how can we take the best of the traditional methods as well, and the blended learning as well, and try and ensure that organizations benefit because the learners are benefiting. At the end of the day, there's one thing common, and this is my thought as well, that the one thing that's common, whether you have done a traditional method of learning or a hybrid way of learning, is the learner, it's been learner centric, right? At the end of the day, your learner comes first. How is the learner adapting to it? How is the learner enjoying it? And what's the experience we're creating for the learners? So I'm glad to see some fantastic views coming over here, especially when it comes to how every organization is adapting to newer ways, either by force or either due to circumstances or either because of their own interests. I have another question here coming up as such. I'm sure the answer is yes, but what kind of differences do we notice in our own learners within our organizations, or when we talk to our other peers, when compared to the previous ways of learning and the current ways of learning? Any thoughts over here? Sashi, starting with you.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Ramya. When you raise the question like how the gaps are being identified for the individual learner to prepare himself or herself to imbibe the learning, it's lost it's a lot more very critical. It's not only the content which has to be learned by the individual, but also the individual must know how to use the gadgets and be tech savvy. The kind of digitalization which is happening in very a quantum speed, I would say, unprecedented way. The kind of transformation which has taken place in the infrastructure development, and also in the kind of the way the traditional the ways of learning being conducted. And now people are absolutely tech savvy, and they have no hesitation in connecting from distant places also. And it has become a new normal, like we said, the hybrid is a new normal, and it's absolutely fine for someone to get connected from any point of time, and the boundaries have shrunk. And in fact, one of the research says that, which has been published by University of Chicago, it says that the boundaries are no more it's going to be the barriers, and the time zones aren't going to be not going to be the barriers. What matters is the way, the speed with which connect and we network with ourselves. And the people have really risen up to that expectations, and they have developed the skill sets, not only to imbibe the learning, but also how that can be accessed, how that can be made customized. Even now, the kind of products which has been coming, the hit the market, and also the kind of the organizations which are picking up those kind of platforms and those modules which can be administered are absolutely customer centric or the learner centric. And it is both way, like how Girish was sharing, that how the organizations are preparing themselves at one side. Similarly, the learners are also preparing themselves on the other sides, and there is a synergy which is coming into the picture, and trying to get a more value addition and try to get an enhanced experience of learning. And also added to that, the application, so which is going to be more and more important, which we'll be discussing when we discuss the impact of the learning.
Absolutely. Yes, Sashi. Girish, over to you. Your thoughts, please.
Right. So from a learner perspective, and I'll split this into two kinds of perspectives. On the one hand, the learners of today are more aware. They're more aware of what they want. They're more aware of what's available in the market. They're more aware of how learning can help them. They're not just aware, but that awareness has helped develop a sense of assertiveness. That, I want this. They're demanding this of organizations. Where is my learning? Right. So earlier the demand used to be focused on competence, and I'm glad it's shifting now to learning. But yes, they're demanding learning. And then there's a sense of FOMO, because everyone is aware, they realize that others are doing it. There is a sense of missing out, that if they do not upskill, if they do not undertake learning, they'll be left behind. So on one hand, these three are helping the push towards learning. Now, what's causing or what's still lacking in the experience or the learning experience is that these learners are also lost. They're looking for content, but just imagine going through these myriad, lists of trainings available, contents available, MOOCs available, and wondering what on Coursera to do. There's just so much available. What should I do? What should I do first? What should I do next? How will that help me? Between two programs on the same topic, which one is the right one for me? Then they're also suffering from low attention spans. The mobile era has made us very short attention span. So they're finding it hard to focus. They're finding it hard to, after working hours, when do I find time for this? The third thing is the requirement for digital detox. Earlier, learning was at least something that was, you were forced to keep away your phones. You were forced to shut down your laptops. Now we are saying, no, keep on your phones, keep on your laptops, stay there, right? So these two, counterbalancing forces both exist, and we'll have to figure out a balance that helps the learners, enables them to get their learning, but also manage the very fact that it's not just learning that's gone hybrid, even work has gone hybrid.
Absolutely. Very well said, Girish. And I think those are some really pertinent points there, especially when it comes to the experience of a learner. I think my last piece that I want to touch, especially from the whole evolution point of view, is if we look back, as you said rightly, Girish, that our attention span has also lowered, all because of the fact that we're all in this whole mobile and digital era, where I think also thanks to the kind of TikTok videos and a lot of things that are coming in, every company is looking at how to grab the eyeballs in those few seconds. So my question here would be, what started off as a macro skill building exercise, good 20, 30 years back, where I think we used to have training programs which were for 2 days, 5 days. I mean, think of the transition programs, or think of leadership programs. I think of those programs where we go out offsite and sit for 2 to 3 days and attentively listen. Versus today, where the focus is more on micro skill building as well, number one. Two, the generation that's coming in right now, I think the people who are born in the year 2000 and all, they're the ones who are graduating right now, right? So they will be the sort of future leaders tomorrow. And they are the ones who are actually defining the learning space and how organizations should move forward in learning, right? All put together. Do you think this is also another area where organizations have to adapt very quickly to ensure that not just macro, but also micro skill building exercises? Sashi?
Yeah, that's a wonderful perspective, Ramya. Indeed, as you rightly put, the learning, the philosophy, it's actually shifted from a macro learning into a micro and as well as a spaced learning. So where, as rightly said by even Girish, the attention span has gone down, and the plethora of content is available, and what to choose is a big question. And how well the learners are aligned towards absorbing those content and imbibing within themselves to make it into use and apply it in the right perspective to get the right benefit out of it and giving value addition to the organization. So now these micro modules is the trend, and also it is going to address the kind of asynchronous learning which we are trying to bring into picture. So where that is going to be the really impactful one, where the learner has a complete sense of freedom, and also it gives them the degree of flexibility to just complete the courses in the way they want to do it. That's one point. And secondly, now when we talk about the kind of cognitive imbibing or the cognitive development or the structured knowledge development which happens inside an individual. So when the research actually says that when somebody actually can grasp the content with spaced intervals, that is going to create the neuronal paths very strongly. And because that is going to revive the individual over a period of time when the same content is seen again and again, and that is going to make the neuroplasticity more and more reliable and to give the learning is long lasting. And the content, well, the other side, when the content developers are coming out with umpteen number of different content, starting from the 5-minute module to say half an hour or a 1 hour modules are available, and the learners are at free to go and choose what they really want to do, and they can make their own repository of learning, and they can complete the course as per their the will and the time availability. One of the important the findings which has come out in the recent research is an average individual, a professional, spends a focused attention span of only 24 minutes in a week of learning. And if this is going to be the order of the day, and you can understand the kind of offerings which has to come from the organization has to really meet that requirement so that learning becomes more and more effective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said, Sashi. Girish, over to you. Your thoughts on this?
Right. So learning has moved from being about an instance, those 2 days in a classroom, to becoming a journey. And like Sashi said, because the attention spans are less, people have less time, so it's become bite-sized. You do it at your own pace. You do it in those small 20-minute modules, 30-minute modules, and you space it out over a period of time. So those 2 days are now spread over 6 months. What it also gives you is a time to imbibe some of those stuff. The other thing that I think is working beautifully well, and something that has happened with the hybrid learning, is this whole a sense of cohorts being formed. Earlier you were in the classroom, so the trainer was there. But now on this journey, the 6 month journey, there's a cohort lead or a coordinator, someone who's there, who's like a coach, who's like a motivator, who's like a governor also, because he maintains the discipline. He holds you accountable that, you're supposed to submit your responses. You're supposed to complete your modules. X number of people have completed. He charges up the group. He, he or she gives a sense of direction. I think that's worked beautifully. In terms of learning experience, that is something that is fantabulous. And in fact, all learnings, I think, are moving towards the cohort-based thing, and they're seeing the impact in terms of both people feeling engaged, the learning quality and quantity going up. Now on to the softer stuff. Something that what used to happen in your 2-day learning program, and I really used to focus on those, is those coffee breaks. I was a bench and I used to really wait for those coffee breaks, not just for the coffee, but it also gives you time for chit chat, and I love chit chatting. I'm a total chatterbox at that. Now in this learning, online learning, where has that gone? And the right, learning designs are now actually realizing that that's an essential element of learning, the social part of learning, right? And they're creating breakout sessions at the beginning, in the middle, towards the end, to ensure that people get that opportunity. And it actually works beautifully, more than the real world, because in the real world, the introverts had a difficulty which table to go to. And I am an introvert at heart, so I know I used to have that challenge. But with the breakout room, you just don't have to worry. You'll be put in the breakout room, there'll be 2 people, it's easier to have that conversation. So these are some of the softer aspects of learning. When you think of the larger learning, ROI design and all, you don't think that that's important. But for people like me, I think this is one of the most essential parts of learning, the social part.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. In fact, I think let me take that, take your point as a question for our audience who's joined in here today. So to all the delegates who have joined us here, we would love to hear from you. When compared to the traditional way of learning in a classroom versus online today, like while we'll move towards a hybrid piece much more, but online today, how many of you are thoroughly enjoying the fact that you can get to network without having your video on, without bothering about the other softer aspects, and keep yourselves I think as like typical introverts would take the time to open up. How many of you are actually enjoying this? Could I have a quick show of hands? Or I think we can have a show of hands. How many of you are truly loving the fact that you don't have to go meet somebody, yet you can network without even showing your face, which is great, because why not? So we can see some show of hands out there, including Girish, of course. Thanks for bringing that point up. Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys. I have another question coming up, and this is again from a more fun point of view. How many of you are truly missing the right amount of breaks that is required between learning, especially when there's a session being held, and a session goes off for 2 hours? We have a transition program that goes for 3 hours. How many of you are truly missing 2 things? One is the number of breaks and actual networking opportunities with your peers. How many of you are missing that? Just a quick show of hands to get an idea, and that would be me. Well, that's quite a few of us here on this call or on this in this panel discussion. Yep. So I think the art of networking, truly building that relationship, and of course a lot of coffee breaks, lunch breaks. And I'm just looking back 15 years back when I was working with HCL, and those memories are coming back. All right, thank you so much for participating, guys. Thank you. So I think this was in short about the fact that we have moved from the traditional methods to the newer methods. And while I think it's important to talk about evolution a lot more, I think the bigger focus today for all of us, and especially the three of us, would be on the engagement levels as well as the efficacy of it. And I can see already some questions coming up. So I think I'll ask Girish the first question over here, because as you mentioned rightly that the focus has moved more from comp and bend to learning. In fact, one of the articles that I was reading, it said 64% of the Indian workforce, they've said that they would leave their jobs if their employers do not invest in their skill building. Now, I wouldn't be surprised with that number. Any thoughts out there, Girish? What have you experienced, considering that you're from that field of comp and ben as such?
So Ramya, like I said, right at the beginning, this is a perfect time for learning to take center stage, because the push side and the pull side are together, at their max power. Organizations are realizing that they need their employees to upskill and reskill, right? They need their employees to become digitally fluent. The digital transformation itself of the organization is a big mandate, and almost all organizations are undergoing that. They're becoming leaner, they're becoming more efficient, they're starting to use AI, ML. It's a world that's evolving so rapidly that the learning needs are changing. And I was talking to our learning head, and she said, earlier the learning needs were stuff of, short term, mid term, long term. Now what that means is, this month, 3 months, 6 months. Long term is 6 months now, right? And the kind of content and the kind of requirements, like an organization like ours, that's a huge, footprint. Managing remote teams was never a requirement. Digital sales was never a requirement, right? Now the learning needs are because we need to reach out to our advertisers and connect with them. We need to have managers who are capable of managing teams that will be operating remotely for a long period of time. So even the need of the hour has changed, right? So all of these dynamics are going on. On the other side, the employees or people at large have recognized that there's a wonderful world of opportunities both within and outside the organizations, and that they own the pace of their career. It is no longer limited or defined by the organization. It is up to them. The earlier content or learning was limited only if the organization provided it to you, could you access it. But now it's accessible so easily, so widely. So even if the organization is not providing it, you will reach out and figure out what is it that you need, and you'll go and get it. So it's in the organization's interest to say, hey, wait on, I'm providing it. I'll curate the journey for you, and let's make it an experience together. So I think it's a beautiful time for learning.
That's so true, Girish. And I think they say that if you snooze, you lose does not apply only for the learners today, but for the organizations as well, right? Every organization has to constantly look at how are they making it effective for their learners and hence for themselves. So, and I think those are some, as you said, it is a great opportunity, especially with having L&D at the center focus as such. Coming to engagement as such, and I think, Sashi, this is where I would request your points coming in. We were discussing the last time that the interventions today, they don't have to be a one size fits all, right? They have to be clearly customized. They have to also have an impact on the learners, and customization is something as a key word here today. So any thoughts over here, how companies and how learners can themselves focus on customized learning and upskill themselves? Any thoughts here?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ramya. Indeed, when we talk about the customizations, I mean, we are moving towards now to Industry 4.0. We are already in now, though we are going towards Industry 5.0, which talks about the mass customization, and coupled with the digitalization, and which is going to be a great enabler for the customization process. In fact, if you see the traditional way of the program being curated and being administered, so where it used to be a mass level of the content which is going to be administered from the knowledge partner, who is going to bring out those kind of essentials which is required for a group. It has never been a kind of the micro analysis of an individual's requirement, where it is the responsibility of the individual to go and pick up those required insights for the individual for learning and for application. Now we have gone to a level where we can specifically ask the individual learner what is their learning needs. The TNI, which is going to be in a digital form, where we are giving them a platform to share their requirements, and that has been captured to devise a content for them. And also it is coupled with, when we talk about the hybrid learning, it is coupled with certain additional modules which is going to come into picture. So where the individual learners can augment the learning, not only in the face-to-face learning, but also offline learning, which goes into it, where they can go and administrate and complete their learning desire. As now pointed out in the, by Girish, in the way of how things is going to happen for completeness of the learning process. Indeed, the learning has now become, the individuals have to expose themselves for certain different kind of unique requirements. It's not only the core which is going to be, but the associated requirements are there, because the cross learning and the peer learning is going to be absolutely important when we network with the other, the learners in the digital era. And when that aspect is going to be implemented, there is a dire need of bringing up those kind of content, and also how they network between each other in learning those requirements. And also the experience sharing is going to be one of the most important requirement, where the hybrid is going to be an enabling thing. Having said that, done, now in the recent report which has been released by People Matters, which talks about the learning trends India 2020, the top two trends, which is really augmenting the statement that the future skills are, the future focus skills are absolutely essential. That is a top one trend. And followed by the trend which says digital learning is the most preferred and aspirational mode of learning. So this gives an insight for us that the customization is required to the level of an individual learner, so that it helps an individual to meet the organizational requirement, so that they become more oriented towards the overall business strategy and the learning requirements of the organization.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I remember reading that article or the research by People Matters as such, and I completely resonate with what you just shared. I also want to touch upon another piece over here. While we talk about engagement, the focus is very heavy on organization on one side and the learner on the other side. We have somebody called the trainer or even the facilitator, and we all know the differences between the two as such. I would want to hear from you, Sashi, first is, even a facilitator today needs to upskill himself or herself as well. Our ways of training, and being a trainer myself, I can say that our ways of training cannot be the same. What are some of the changes, and what are some of the things that you can notice or you feel that a trainer should do today, and how engaging should it be for a trainer as well, because he or she is also equally part of this entire learning ecosystem, and in fact driving it, if not anything.
Absolutely. In fact, I would say, so that has put an additional requirement of being a trainer. So where we need to constantly upgrade ourselves. And the 3 A's, which I really like in this context, is becoming more agile, becoming more aligned, and becoming more adaptive. So these 3 are absolutely the need of the hour, where the trainer has to, equip himself in terms of knowledge, skill sets, attitude. And this is absolutely essential. And secondly, as a trainer, what is most important, when we talk about the learning and the basis or the background of learning, how it is going to be more impactful. What is happening is, traditionally the learning is to be a single loop learning. So where there is a requirement and you deliver the content and there is an outcome, and you try to compare these two and use to find out. But now, as a trainer, what is most important is you need to really set the need for learning. And you may have to even challenge their assumptions and their mindset. So that calls for a need for double loop learning. So as a trainer, it is not only essential that you deliver the content, but also you should make them realize that why there is a change is required, or why there is a constant modification or dynamism is required in learning. And that becomes a part of responsibility for the trainer. And that is really, really important.
Absolutely.
You have to really make them realize why learning is important and how it can be imbibed in the best possible way.
Very well said. Yeah, I think if I look back, the way we used to train the employees about 15 years back is so different today. And even I think training as a medium itself has changed a lot. Trainers are today expected to be even digitally sound. They cannot stay or lag behind if the learners are already moving ahead. I think Girish, you spoke about one good point, that today's generation, or not just generation, I think all of us, we have an access to plethora of information. In fact, I feel that knowledge is not powered anymore because everyone has the access to that knowledge, right? It's that action of that knowledge which is more powerful today, right? So any thoughts over here, Girish, what in your organization especially, how do you notice that how trainers are also adapting themselves and ensuring that they are equally agile and at speed when it comes to learning these resources faster?
So, glad you brought that point about information up. In fact, I was having a conversation with our learning head, and she said, information is all available on Google. It's the application that counts, right? So even the training programs, people are sitting remotely, virtually. They're not going to be interested if you're going to just throw knowledge on them, because people are not looking to retain information. Information they can Google at any point of time. What they're looking as is to help them become better at application. So even the learning design has not changed to focus more on the application bit. Second is, managing a remote group is very different from managing a local or a classroom session. Earlier you could crack a joke and that would work. How do you engage people, 20 people sitting on your screen for 2 hours or 1 hour, right? So you got to learn those knacks. They're not, and there's fantastic tools. I think everyone who runs a webinar these days uses a Mentimeter, right? Remember the Zoom screens earlier? Now they have a separate chat screen, a separate poll option, a separate Q&A box. Right? These are all stuff that's been given to or created because of the need that was created. That how do I manage? How do I engage? And that is where even the facilitators or trainers are becoming more adept at this. While you did ask me about how did we do this in our organization, but I was because we were at this point of of facilitators or trainers needing to upskill themselves. I actually wanted to also talk about what are the possible different jobs in the training area that may come up, because till maybe a couple of years ago I hadn't heard of cohort managers. That's there now. So I was thinking, what else could happen? So as I was like, in my own personal learning journey, what is it that I would be looking for? And two thoughts came to my mind. When I'm looking for learning, I like to have that joy of discovery, but I also need a ease of finding, right? So I'm looking at someone who can curate content for me. So that I shouldn't have to go out and dig up everything that I need to. So if I want to learn guitar, I shouldn't have to dig up who's the best guitarist or where do I get good lessons and what are the most effective lessons. And how does learning guitar sit in with my need for learning, say, M&A program management or LTIP design. So someone who can curate all of my learning needs into a flowing journey. And this need not be a person, it could be AI also, but someone who can help me with this. And the other thing is a learning coach. Nowadays, if you buy a Fitbit kind of a thing, a smartwatch, there are complimentary or paid subscriptions available for fitness coaches. So how about learning coaches? If learning is so important and upskilling and reskilling is a constant need, well, probably we'll need learning coaches to help us with that journey, to ensure that we do not fall behind, we keep on it, ensure that we don't have learning fatigue. Right? Who can tell you, yeah, ease off, you've done enough learning programs, ease off for a while, let's do something 2 months later. Right? So these are a couple of things that would come up.
Beautiful. Very well said. I think we also have lots of questions coming up, but I thought I'll just ask one question to the audience before we take the audience questions as well. Is in an age today where we have where we can learn from YouTube, we can also learn from Netflix and Amazon. I'm watching a lot of documentaries. In fact, today I was watching a documentary on Netflix itself, and of course we have also the structured learning that the organization is providing. My question to all of you who have joined this call today is, what's the one thing that you're looking in your trainers or the people who are actually imparting training to you all? Because there is access to knowledge, Netflix, Amazon, everywhere. But what's the one thing you're looking forward to when you go and attend a session, or you go and probably take some notes from somebody? What is it that you're looking forward to? Could we have some thoughts coming in from all of you as well? Would love to hear that. And that'll help me, especially considering I'm a trainer as well. So I'm going to take those points from you all and try to adapt and adopt to that as well. But otherwise, yes, I think we have some responses coming by some of you. I'll just take a look at chat box. Yeah, the trainer shouldn't be living in the past. That's good. Practical aspects. Very well said, Dr. Singh. As I think even Girish and Sashi, both of them have said that it's not about the information, but it's the application out there. How is it applied, and how can we customize to that person as well? Others, we're going to switch off. The moment it's not related to me, I'm going to switch off. And that's the medium that we are in right now. So good thoughts coming in there. So I'll just like to bring in Yashwant here. Do you want to take some questions, or do we have time to move towards the efficacy? Yeah.
Yes, Ramya, Girish, and Sashi, great points, across the team. We do have, certain questions from the audience also. I'll just quickly pick some of those. One very interesting question has been asked by Mosh today, who has written that, we have seen that during the pandemic, many companies have collaborated with each other as demand of product and services have fallen hugely. How do you see this from a learning and development perspective, where companies collaborate with each other and send their employees to learn from each other, like employee exchange program, which could be penniless? Do you see such change coming?
That's a beautiful question, actually, Yashwant. So Sashi, first I'll bounce that question to you, if that's fine. Do you want to take that question up? Yeah.
So now, indeed, that's one of a very bright thought which has come, in the wake of pandemic, and even in the management concept, we heard of co-opetition. So where you cooperate and you collaborate and you compete as well. I mean, when it comes to the learning organizations requirement, meeting the diverse needs of the organizations, because each organization's, the philosophy, the culture stems out from different background as well. But when when we say the boundaries are, vanishing, and we say, the learning is a holistic process, and it is common for the individuals who are operating from a different diverse background also. The needs, as long as the training needs are going to be common, although if the training, the organizations or the culture or the background is going to be different. So it's absolutely essential for them to collaborate, because one is the core knowledge which is going to be transferred to them. The second is there is going to be a very intense peer and cross learning goes to happen there. So that is one of the great takeaway. I mean, that is the networking which comes into there, the kind of the sharing, the experience sharing, the knowledge sharing which is going to happen. And that is going to be the really fantastic takeaways for the individuals when they come from different and diverse background. Even when we design a training intervention, we look forward that kind of diversity be there. And that is going to make learning more impactful and more value addition.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. Yes, sir. Yes, Yashwant.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shashi, for answering that question. We now have Dr. Vijay Fateh ji. Hello, can you please unmute Vijay Fateh, sir? You would like to go live for asking question.
Yeah, good evening all. It was a nice interaction going on, and I'm witnessing this. Being myself a master trainer with ISTD, we have conducted a program of Train the Trainer, and we were very much concerned that how such program will be conducted online, and will it be effective or not. But with the technology and with the participation, we could achieve it, and that's a great thing about online learning. The questions which I have and would like to talk about it is that, this environment, learning environment, that's a very crucial part. Whenever you are in a classroom or you are offline learning, you are in a situation wherein you provide a consistent and the uniform environment to every participant or the trainee. But learning online, and that also in their comfort zone, and with the kind of disturbances going in and around from the family members and kids and all that, and incoming disturbances from calls and something like that, it becomes a challenging thing for you. And many times, because of the bandwidth constraint, you find that many of them are not switching on their videos, and you are not able to actually see the expression. As a trainer, I know I am very adaptable and flexible, and at the moment I see the facial expression of my trainee, I know where I am going wrong and why I need to correct myself, or what I need to give more elaborate explanation to this. So somewhere or the other, what are the offline trainings advantages? We are missing on to that with the online training. But definitely there are added advantage of online training which can be covered up. So catering to the technology, as Shashi was saying about, or the Girish also saying about that, using the various tools and technique and breakout room. So there is something called, you need to have focus on a very smaller group rather than catering to the larger audience, which is not manageable. So I would like your views on them, how to take care of that learning environmental concern.
Fair enough. So shall I go ahead first, Dr. Vijay? All right.
Yeah,
I'll just share my
Ravi.
views. I'll share my views and then I'll pass it on to the other panelists as well. So I think I completely agree with you, Dr. Vijay. And I think even as a trainer myself, there's one big difference that we observe clearly is the body language, clearly. And that's
Yes.
something we miss out, especially in online forum with bandwidth issues and all. But there's one thing that we have also observed. I mean, considering that it's been almost a year that all our programs in our organization at least has moved completely virtual. Even learners have taken their time to, break their ice and get comfortable with asking questions online. So to expect, I think as a trainer, for me to expect that every person, or even the 30 people who are attending the session, and every person in those 30 will open up and share, that expectation from me wouldn't be right as a trainer, number one. Two, to warm them up and to ensure that this is a free place, this is a free space and a comfortable space for them to open up. Has it happened overnight? No, but after 1 year, I have observed that learners have slowly moved. So the learning environment that as trainers we can create our best is get absolutely comfortable with them and make them comfortable to us, number one. Ensure that they can, they can trust that this information that's being shared within this online space is going to stay here. And that together we can drive conversations. And I feel as a trainer, it's not about me imparting information, it's driving conversations amongst those 30, 50 people, which will ensure that the discussion is more fruitful. This is one thing that I have been doing, at least to ensure that the environment is more fun, lively, and equally engaging. I think I'll move this to Shashi first, and then ask Girish as well from his point of view and in his organization, how it's been happening as well.
Thank you, Ramya, for that wonderful. You have set the right direction for the question put by Dr. Vijay. Dr. Vijay, my thoughts would be, my own personal experience would be when I've been teaching for the MBA graduates, or for that matter to the other, the working executives. What I've learned is, in order to make it more engaging, in fact, you have raised a very pertinent question, how to make it more engaging. It's really, really challenging. It could be quite easy when an in-classroom training program is there, where they are eye to eye, and you have to face the faculty, and you need to interact with the individual, and you need to share and participate. Where in offline, absolutely, you have great freedom. You switch off your video, and nobody knows whether behind the screen, right? In fact, I have 2-3 strategies which I adopted. It worked well for me. One is, if we see the learning as a process, what happens is, when a new information gets shared with the learner, what happens? The information gets tagged with the already available, the understanding of the information. And when we really talk about something what they already know, and when we are going to build on that, and that is going to be a really engaging, I would call a pivotal point. So try to just touch upon those pivotal points where the learner becomes interested, and it should not be something off the hoot, and they're trying to, okay, what the faculty is talking, I'm not able to connect with what he's talking. So first establish that connect, and this can happen wonderfully with the lot of digital stuff available. In fact, I have used quite a large number of YouTube videos. When even today I've just taken a class on scorecards, like balance scorecard or HR scorecards or training scorecards. I shared a case study of Uber, how the Uber made a transformation in their business by utilizing the scorecards. And when we talked about Uber, so the learner gets connected. Okay, I know the business model of Uber. I know how things are going to work for Uber, how Uber used the balanced scorecard to address their business issues. So immediately the connect happens. So this is one strategy. The second one, which I use, is when you see constantly there is a non-participation from an individual, try to pull that individual and ask some question. And this is going to be more and more, engaging for that individual, and he has to be attentive for what is being shared by the faculty. And a third one is telling stories. And this is going to be really, really wonderful. In fact, you can ask their stories to share with respect to the context of teaching. I mean, we know Ramya is a great storyteller, and she should be able to appreciate that. And storytelling is going to be really order of the day. You can even simplify the toughest of the concept, and you can address it to the learning needs of the individual, and you can make it more and more appealing for the individual to have. That is the thoughts.
Completely agree with you, Sashi. Wouldn't deny that at all, especially with storytelling. It's one of the best mediums to actually have our training, or even I think, and create a beautiful experience for ourselves as well as the learners. Girish, what about you? Any thoughts here?
Yeah. So, to Dr. Vijay's point, as things open up, trainings will get categorized into 3 buckets, and we're in that stage of evolution. There will be online training, which is non-instructor led. There will be virtual instructor led training, and then there will be some extent of trainings that will come back to classrooms. And this also may take up 2 different shapes. One is where all the trainees are sitting in the same classroom. The other, maybe the trainees are sitting in the respective locations in different classrooms. So, like we've got 2 offices, Mumbai and Delhi. We once held a session, this was way before COVID, where, one batch of trainees was in the Bombay conference room, other batch of trainees was here. The facilitator was in one of those sessions, but the participants were all in the classrooms, right? They had that environment for them. So, this thing is going to evolve continuously. We've just seen one part that has been created because of a particular need. As and when this need eases off, we will see this evolving further.
All right. So I think Yashwant, I think over to
you.
Yes,
Girish, thank you, Ramya and Sashi for great thought on that. Hello, we have next, Girish Chandraji. Girish sir, would you like to ask a question to the panel, please? Yes, can you please unmute yourself first, sir? Mr. Girish Chandraji.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Yes, please, you can use the video.
Yeah, no, I had already, I think some of you have answered that now. Girish has very nicely said that you have categorized the training into 3 sessions. One is that a classroom learning also. My concern was that when we used to have the workshops, then the learning used to be very good, because we were supposed to spell out and then find out what exactly is happening with the individual, and the trainer is able to correct us and then guide us properly. But in this classroom trainings, the hybrid trainings, all those things will be missing. So actual learning will be there or not, it will be very difficult to assess. Some tools you have to develop, and you might be developing also, so that simultaneously, for example, I have given a training, online training about 10 years back in a project management company in Italy. Kumar was the company where we arranged the training from Italy directly to our people here, because the cost of the international traveling was very high. So, and in the end, what we did was that we have objective type questions then and there, and asked the people to respond to that. And then we had that immediately the result, what type of a learning it has gone into the individual and how much he has learned. So that type of a thing, I think we need to develop, all of us. So this will happen. Right. Yes, thanks.
Sure, thank you, Girish sir. Ramya, I have in fact just tempted to ask the question to all 3 of you. We are talking about the hybrid as a new normal for the learning development fraternity at large, right? When we talk about our entire economy, it is divided into organized and unorganized sector, right? And organized sector being the topmost driver of the job for people at large, right? Which comprise of almost 90%. What, according to you, are going to be the leadership challenges, for L&D professionals, going into the context of the unorganized worker space? How do you look at it? Thank you.
All right. So I think for me, the voice is breaking, so I'm not quite sure of the question again.
Yeah, do you want me to?
Could you repeat again? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So since we are talking about the hybrid being the new normal for the energy domain, right? So I was just talking from the context of the unorganized sector, right, which happens to consist of almost 92% of our economies, right? So what are the leadership challenges for the L&D professionals, with respect to the people who are working in the unorganized sector? We generally talk about the white collar, right? But nobody talks about the unorganized sector part of it. So let's I just want to have certain focus on that from the Thank you.
Fair enough. Shashi, do you want to go first for this?
Yes, I mean, Yashwant, I mean, I could get your question like the leadership challenges for the L&D fraternity for training the unorganized sector, right? So being,
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That is indeed a challenge. I mean, if you see the real perspective of the hybrid learning or the online learning we've taken for that matter, the kind of digitalization happen in our country, the kind of the availability of the resources which is going to support the learning is going to be absolutely, absolutely challenging. I mean, there's no harm in accepting that. Having said that, I mean, even you can see the kind of challenges which even the developed the metros having, the kind of the challenges which even us we face when the kind of definitely when you're going for that kind of intervention, it's really challenging. But learning cannot stop. I mean, that is the one bottom line which we all agree. So here, what is most important is we have to really find out those cohorts, so where they have access towards this unorganized sector, and find out those learning requirements, specific needs, instead of giving a holistic training for each and every one of them. It has to be an identified cohort training for the individual on the specific training needs, not all, what is required for the time for them to develop their skill sets and to practice it. That is most important. In fact, one of the kind of modality which is being followed is flipped classroom. Flipped classroom is you prepare yourself beforehand of the class intervention with all the kind of the stuff being made available by the faculty, have a comprehensive understanding of what this learning is going to be and what is the complete the modality or the process of learning is going to be. So individual will come with that kind of pre-engagement the assessment or the activity, and that is going to prepare an individual to a certain extent. And now the faculty has to take it forward and make it more appealing and make it more implementable from the skill-based. When we talk about unorganized sector, the focus is more on the skill-based. In fact, you can see that there are many skill development institutes have come in our country. The kind of importance which has come into skill development is humongous. And here where the technology comes into picture, when we talk about robotics, when we talk about artificial intelligence, and these are some of the technology which is going to really revolutionize the way we want to learn. Yes, the challenges are there to get those kind of access to this the masses, but there should be nodal agencies which has to be appointed who will be responsible for taking this to the unorganized sector.
Yashwant, just to add on to what Shashi was saying. So, and this is a very important piece because like you rightly said that the largest set of population is sitting in the unorganized sector. So clearly two challenges are going to be there. One is the availability of technological infrastructure. And even in that, there are various companies that are looking at creating cheap digital phones, mobile phones with screens with 4G network for these people to be able to access. So that's going to be one aspect, cheap IT infrastructure to be available for these people. The second is digital fluency for them to be able to do that. And that is something where the advantage is children. Kids figure out digital fluency very fast. And even in that area or that scope, even today, they are, laborers are providing, buying expensive phones or, second-hand phones and providing to the children for them to be able to do the schooling, right? And it is these set of children who will train their parents how to use these phones and these technologies. And the third thing that is a really big opportunity and that will really help is vernacular training, right? Because you can take the same training module and convert it into local languages, local lingo, and it just makes it easier for the other person, or especially this large population, to understand what is being said. So at the same time, while there are challenges, there's also opportunities. And as time evolves, we'll see how some of this comes forward. And one of the biggest areas that we're seeing this is actually in the agricultural sector. There's so many agri startups that are focusing on training farmers, giving them the right sets. So it is actually happening as we speak. This transition is happening.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add one piece here, Yashwant, very quickly. Is so I'm one of the mentors on Shiros, and there we have the rural entrepreneurs, the women entrepreneurs as well, who who we mentor as such. And I think one thing that I've observed, and I completely resonate with what Girish has said, is what's learning for them. If you look at it, they are in tier 3, tier 4, even if there was a tier 4, but they are remote areas and some of the areas of Andhra that I'm aware of, because I'm a mentor for them. They take the advantage of the fact that the children are aware of how to even go to a Google Meet or how to even use YouTube. In fact, the last session with them was how to upload a video. But they sit with their children. The children learn very fast, and then they teach the parents, and they're up there. They have their businesses on Facebook, on YouTube. Now they're learning how to be on Instagram. They talk about hashtags. How has this happened? Not just through organizations alone, but I think even the fact that you have to be there, you have to be online to have your business go out. So, and also vernacular, as I think Girish said, that's the way to be. It's not just about speaking English or Hindi or one particular language. Every state has its own unique language, and even as organizations, we have to create videos. We have to customize to those people. Sometimes we create videos in Gujarati. We have created videos in Tamil and different languages as such, so that we cater to their needs. Yes, I completely understand that this is started. It's an initiative that started. Is it the most effective? We are yet to see that, of course, right? That efficacy of it is yet to be seen. No denying on that front as such.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much for your thoughts on that. We'll quickly move to the last question because we are having long questions, but because of paucity of time and respecting your time also, I'll just take last question quickly. It is from Pratima Kaushal ma'am. She's asking, what have been the feedback from the trainees? Are they experiencing any training fatigue? Just a quick thought maybe from any one of you.
Okay, I'll go first very quickly. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The answer is yes. There is a training fatigue. At least the ones that I've been, talking to, there's immense training fatigue because their trainings back to back, and they want to attend. They're keen to attend, while some of the sessions are only 1.5 hours to 3 hours. There is a sense of fatigue because the medium is the same. There's no physical interaction. However, all the feedback that we got from trainees is, while there is fatigue, there is again equal excitement to come back and again learn, but it's not mapping very well. It's still, there's a long way to go to it. Fatigue is there. Excitement is there, but the gap that it needs to bridge, there is still more time for it to go, clearly, without any doubt. Sashi?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ramya. I mean, indeed, that is a big challenge as well. The learning fatigue in terms of going online, that too, facing computers for more than 8 hours in a day. I mean, with few breaks available. So the as said that fatigue is there. But equally, the learning inquisitiveness, the quest for learning has also improved because when we talk about online learning, there is the content curation is much improvised way, and that is addressing the learner's needs in a very specific and prompt way, and that is creating that kind of excitement in the learner. And all said and done, they are willing to even forego the fatigue and learn and apply. And this is completely the responsibility of the faculty and the knowledge part, and how to make it more engaging and more interactive. Here, I would like to quote an example when we have devised a program on interviewing skills. I mean, you can understand this interviewing skills is for the executives who are, at least 3 decades experience to 30 plus years of experience. And you can understand the kind of fatigue they would have in, undergoing this training program. Earlier, it used to be, a more of a monologue from the faculty, giving those kind of requirements of how to be an interviewer, the nonverbal communication, and so on and so forth. But when we went for the online mode of training, what we did is we conducted mock trainings online. And this, when we conducted mock trainings online, we took the students from the college to play the role of interviewee. That, believe me, that kind of excitement which is, has come into picture in the interviewer, they forgot, they were sitting there right through the computers for 3 continuous days, 8 hours, and they're completely engaged. And the learning excitement was absolutely great. And they said that we have unlearned so many things from this program. And that's my experience, although the fatigue is there, but the learning excitement is going to overrule that fatigue, and people are so excited to learn online.
Yes, Girish?
Right. So, that is why I actually brought up the point of, curation, training curation specialists and learning coaches, because there is fatigue, because people, in the fear of missing out are trying to do too many things. There are too many things being pushed out to them. It's both a matter of a fear of missing out as well as a greed that, I could do this, I could do this. At some point of time, we'll have to take a call as to how do we prioritize. Like everything else that we prioritize in life, we'll also have to start prioritizing our learnings.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Ramya, with this, we come to the end of the Q&A round. Before we proceed further, just maybe the last one-liner from each one of you to just give a message to the audience. We have people from various walks of life over here. What is your message to them with respect to the hybrids and the
Sure. I think I'll request the panelists to go first. I mean, Sashi, Girish, and then I'll close it at the end. So, Sashi, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Ramya. As I started, the 3 words which excites me with respect to hybrid learning: it is more exciting, it is more engaging, and it is more, enlightening. It is absolutely essential as a fraternity from the L&D. We need to make this intervention much excited to the learner, and focusing completely on the learning needs instead of giving them a plethora of information and the content. What is needed is the customized and excited way. Give them that kind of learning experience, which is going to be that is going to ensure their the learning is long lasting and completely applied for them to make better use of it. So one-liner would be: make it more exciting, engaging, and enlightening.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Sashi. Ramya, please.
Yes. If I was to summarize it, I would say that the idea is no more about what's in the content. Content might be a lot. There's a plethora of content. How customized is it to the learner? How enriching, and I think as Sashi said, how exciting and enriching it is to that learner. That is where an organization or any one of us will have to focus on. Are we creating that even 1 minute of excitement for them to take away something? If there is no takeaway, we are going to lose that particular learner within few minutes because of the attention span. Second thing is also, of course, while the world is moving towards micro learning and because of our attention span being low, can we still focus on some of the good examples from the past and adapt it to the newer ways? So I'm not saying let go how we did it in the past, because there were some good ways to do it as such. So I'm saying take something from the past in the traditional methods, adapt it to the newer methods, and then let's try to marry both and give it the best. Yes, there is a lot of time to see how is the efficiency of this, but let's be honest, guys. If you gave 30, 50 years for traditional method to see if it was efficient or not, within 1 year, 2 years, or 10 years, we can't decide how efficient this is. So can we have the patience to keep developing, keep giving more, and constantly adapting based on what the learner wants? How is the learner responding to what we are offering? So this would be something that I would definitely focus on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Girish, you go with the last.
Yeah. So, since Shashi has covered about learning experience, I'll skip that part. I'll talk about, since we're using technology so intensively now, we sometimes don't realize how much it empowers us in being able to customize our training and kind of insight it's give us. For a training module that has session that has maybe 10 modules, it can tell you at what module, how much time did a learner spend, what is the most popular module for someone, which are the modules where you're seeing a fall off rate. So there is so much more insights that you can generate now, that you can really customize and redesign your learning programs, your learning journeys very, very intensely and to suit your audience. You can also, in the same flow, create learning consequences, and a lot of organizations are doing that. So they're integrating learning with your careers, that if you want to progress in your career, these are certain things that you need to do. These are your learning credits. Learning has become a currency. You do more learning, you get more certifications, you become eligible for more learnings. It is such a dynamic situation. It is only limited by our imagination what we can do with it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. And before we move ahead, I'll just like to quote Jack Welch over here that he said that, if the rate of change outside is more than the rate of change inside, the end is near. So we all have to be, cognizant of the fact that, the world is changing at a very rapid pace. And with the COVID-19, it has extensively to a very different level altogether, fundamentally altering the world, right? So we have to be absolutely conscious of that fact and move into the future with this hybrid in our mind and with action following accordingly. I'd now like to invite, thank you so much, special panel speakers and my moderator, Ramya Raji. Thank you so much once again. I'd like to move now to the next round of the session, which is about the summarization of learning. We have our association partner, New Learning Institute of Management, and we have Sushma Murali ma'am from there. I would like to request Dr. Sushma Murali ma'am to kindly summarize the learnings of this exciting session. Thank you so much. In just 5 minutes. Thank you. You have to unmute yourself, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chauhan, and thank you, Ramya, for giving me an opportunity to summarize this hour-long deliberation on hybrid, the new normal in learning and development. Mr. GP Rao began this session with a warm welcome to all and introducing this young leadership series under Mr. Chauhan, I believe, right? So Ramya, the moderator, proposed that we should understand hybrid learning, where it is taking us and how we are faring at it right now. So in the deliberations, Mr. Kohli believed that hybrid learning is in thing. Transformation has been quick, boundaries have shrunk, and time zone barriers have become irrelevant. He also believed that the modules that are being developed are more customer-centric. Learners are getting the freedom to space their learning, and it is apparent that the learning is better now than before. He also believed that this is the time for learning to take the center stage, as there is both push and pull factor. He also further added that any type of information is available on the Google. So people want to improve the application of knowledge, and that is what they're looking from the trainers. He also believed that managing remote audience is difficult. Hence, various types of interventions have to be involved in this process. Two new profiles that he believed are coming up are the role of a curator, and who can curate the learning needs, and that of a learning coach. Mr. Shashi Kumar was also very hopeful that this learning model will pick up and is doing well. He was of the opinion that learners are more aware, they are more assertive, and because they believe that if they don't learn, they'll be left behind. He also believed that cohort-based learning as a model is developing. He also believed that in the traditional training model, where a lot of socializing used to happen, that is missing in this particular type of hybrid learning. So he also said that various interventions like breakout sessions, etc., are being added on to these training sessions to make make up for the absence of social interactions. He also believed that customization is already happening. Industry is moving to 5.0, and this industry 5.0 is a great enabler for customization. Largely, he believed that trainers will have to be agile, aligned, and adaptable. He believed that trainers will have to deliver content and also explain to the trainee why the change is required and how learning can be imbibed. While all the trainers, all the panelists believe that it would be a challenge to go along with this hybrid learning model, but it is a thing to stay, and it will become better in the coming years. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Krishna Murali ma'am, for summarizing so beautifully. I once again thank NDIM and also the entire fraternity from the industry, NHRDN, NIPM, FMA, DMA to support this young experience, and we look forward to your continued support. I would like to invite Shri Shastri sir, who is the Vice Chairperson of ISTD Delhi chapter, to kindly propose a vote of thanks. Over to Girish Shastri sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yashwant. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah, so it was a wonderful panel discussion, and I must thank all the panelists, that is Ramya Rao, Shashi Kumar, and Mr. Girish Kohli. And special thanks to you, Yashwant, for organizing this event under the Young Leadership Series, under the aegis of ISTD, NHRDN, NIPM, DMA, NDIM, and Faridabad Management Association. We got a lot of good insights from this discussion, and as we all know, learning or quest for knowledge is a natural instinct. So therefore, any progressive organization must put in place an appropriate framework for fulfilling the L&D needs of its members. And again, as of all of us know, change is the only constant, and L&D domain is also no exception. So whether we talk of the ancient era or the current situation of COVID-19, the process of L&D has to undergo change and must be customized and aligned with the dynamic scenario. So as you all said, hybrid is the new normal in L&D space. But please remember, this is also not going to remain forever. This is also subject to change. So while providing enablers for L&D is very important, the biggest leadership challenge is to create a culture of learning where L&D is considered as an investment, not a cost, and where people consider L&D as an important organizational value, and application of learning in business processes is valued. That is most important. Everything else, like the logistics, the digital platform, etc., will follow. And finally, having said this, it is also important for the L&D professionals to be learner-centric, innovative and creative in their approach, and keeping in tune with the times. So a great discussion, great learning. So I would like to express sincere thanks on behalf of the Managing Committee of ISTD Delhi chapter, led by Mr. Mukesh Jain, our chairman, our secretary, Mr. Ajay Sahu, the committee members, Mrs. Sucharita, and I am very much thankful to the respected members of the audience like Dr. Sunil Abral, Dr. J.P. Rao, Professor S.K. Puri, Dr. S.B. Mitra, Dr. Vijay Phate, Mr. Ashish Gakre, Mr. Mahesh Maheshwari from NIPM Kolkata. Then we have our own Ritimaji, then Dr. Preeti Lata, Mrs. Sushma Murali, Urvashi Kaul, Mr. A.N. Verma, Dr. Naipal Singh, and all others who actively participated in this webinar and made it a very successful event. And I also thank Mr. Prem Singh, President of NHRDN Delhi NCR, Mr. Dinesh Jain, Chairman NIPM Delhi NCR Chapter, Mr. Yogesh Mishra, President DMA, Mr. Vishmohan Bansal, Chairman NDIM, and Mr. Abhay Kapoor, President of Faridabad Management Association. Thanks to each one of you, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank
so
you,
much,
Sastri Saab. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Yes, friends, with this we come to the end of this entire session. I hope it has been a great learning for everyone, and I'm sure the young leaders of today are actually defining the future of hybrid for tomorrow. Thank you once again. I once again thank each one of you for being here, and making this session so interactive. Mukesh sir, do we have any announcement for the
Thank you, Dr. Mr. Sastri, and Yashwant did a wonderful job. You brought three very dynamic young leaders. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. G.P. Rao, for guiding and helped Yashwant to organize such a wonderful panel discussion. Thanks, Alok ji. Thanks, Arun, for all your all-time support. Thank you very much. Thanks, all panelists. And Sushma ji from NDIM.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Pratima ma'am, for being here.
So